The credit card reader takes 3 seconds to approve, and you spend all three of them watching the face of the woman behind you in line, checking whether she's impressed by the watch or whether she can tell it's the one you financed at 19%. She can't tell. She isn't even looking. Nobody is ever looking, and that is the thing that took you 11 years and one specific Tuesday to understand. But right now you don't know that yet. Right now you are 29. You make $91,000 a year as a marketing manager in Charlotte, and you are exhausted in a way that sleep does not fix. Then one ordinary object on your kitchen counter changed the way you saw everything you'd been doing, and by the time this is over, you'll see it too. Start with the noise, because you lived inside it so long you stopped hearing it. The noise is the drive home in the leased Audi with the payment that eats $640 a month, a car you chose over the Camry specifically because of the 4 rings on the hood and what they'd say when you pulled into your parents' driveway at Thanksgiving. The noise is the apartment in South End you can technically afford, meaning the rent is exactly 38% of your take-home, and the math only works if nothing goes wrong, and something always goes wrong. The noise is the way you narrate your own life to people who didn't ask. The trip, the restaurant, the promotion mentioned casually, dropped into conversation like a coin into a fountain, and you watch their face for the ripple. Here's a number that should frighten you more than it does. The median American household has less than $8,000 in savings, and the top earners, people making what you make, often have less, because the more they earn, the more they spend proving they earn it. You are a case study you would recognize instantly in someone else and cannot see in yourself. You refresh your checking account on a Wednesday morning, hoping the number changed overnight. It did not change overnight. It never changes overnight. The paycheck landed Friday, and by Wednesday it is a rumor. And still, every quarter you get the LinkedIn notification that someone from your graduating class made director, and something cold moves through your stomach, and you draft a post about your own wins, and you delete it, and you draft it again. Now, before the Tuesday, you should know there was a man you'd met exactly once, your college roommate's father, a guy named Walt, who owned half the commercial real estate in a town you'd never heard of, and drove a 15-year-old pickup with a faded hood. You'd assumed back then that he was cheap. You laughed about it on the drive home. It would be another decade before you understood that the faded hood was the whole point, that Walt had stopped announcing his money so long ago that being noticed for it would have felt to him like leaving his front door unlocked. He bought things that lasted 30 years, and never once named a price. You saw a cheap old man. You were looking at the freedom you'd spend the next 10 years financing your way around. You just didn't have the eyes for it yet. That took the Tuesday. It's a small thing, which is how the real things always arrive. You're standing in your kitchen and your statement notification lights up your phone. Your statement is ready, and you feel the specific dread that sentence produces, a flinch you've had so many times you no longer question it. You open it. You look at the interest. Not the balance, the interest. The amount you paid, that month, purely for the privilege of having spent money you didn't have. It's $190. For nothing. For air. And next to your phone on the counter is the reason. A shopping bag from the mall, tissue paper still in it, a $200 sweater you bought Saturday because you'd already worn the other nice ones in front of the people who'd see this one. That's the whole reason. You bought it to not repeat an outfit in front of an audience that does not exist. You look at the sweater. You look at the interest. And for the first time, the arithmetic of your entire life resolves into a single clean equation. You have been paying 19% to perform a version of yourself for people who are, at this exact moment, at home performing for you. That's the Tuesday. Nothing burned down. You just stop being able to unsee it. So you start reading, quietly, the way you do everything now. And you find the thing nobody advertises because it can't be sold to you. The difference between new money and old money was never the amount. It's the direction the energy points. New money points outward. It needs the room to know. Old money points inward, and it has for so long that being known feels not like a reward, but like a security risk. It was Walt's whole life, and you'd laughed at it. Then, standing in your kitchen, a thought arrives in your own voice, and it's a cruel one. You look out the window at the Audi in the lot, and you finally understand what it actually is. It doesn't put $1 in your pocket. It takes $640 out every month, on time, forever. It is a liability wearing the costume of an asset. The watch on your wrist, same thing. You had been spending the fuel of your one finite life buying liabilities specifically because they looked like assets to strangers. Walt never once confused the costume for the thing. You'd confused nothing else. Watch how it changes the ordinary day, because this is where slow stops being a metaphor. You break the Audi lease. It costs you. Early termination isn't free. Call it a couple thousand to walk away. And you drive a paid-off used Corolla, and the silence in that car on the highway is the first quiet you've heard in years. You keep the sweater, you're not a monk, but you stop buying the next one. You start doing the thing where you want something and you simply wait, and you notice that roughly 2 out of 3 wants evaporate inside a week, which means 2 out of 3 of your old purchases were never desires at all. They were anesthesia. You cancel a streaming service you forgot you had and feel, absurdly, a small, clean spark of pride over $14, and you let yourself have that. You stop opening the account app to feel something and start opening it once a month to make a decision. Then you do the quiet math. The car payment you no longer make, the sweaters you no longer buy, call it $1,100 a month. You move it into a low-cost index fund, you turn on automatic transfers, and then you do the hardest thing of all, which is nothing. You don't check it. You let the market do in silence what your salary never could. A broad fund has returned somewhere in the ballpark of 10% a year across the long American century. The only tax compounding charges is patience, and patience was the one currency you were finally learning to hold. Your mother asks at Thanksgiving why you got rid of the nice car, and you say, "I liked the quiet." And she looks at you like she's trying to find the catch, and there isn't one, and the silence after that answer is the first Thanksgiving conversation about money you have ever won by refusing to have it. You say no to a wedding in Cabo you cannot afford, and you don't construct the elaborate excuse, the fake work conflict, the layered lie. You just say you can't make it this year. No paragraph. And the sky does not fall. You had been paying all your life an invisible tax in explanations, and the day you stop explaining yourself is the day you get a raise nobody processes through payroll. Because here's what it took you 11 years to learn. You were renting self-worth by the month and calling it a lifestyle. Dana, meanwhile. Dana started the same year you did, same department, 2 desks over, and drove a 9-year-old Honda Civic with a cracked cup holder and a college parking sticker she never scraped off. You'd felt a little sorry for her, if you're honest. You thought the Civic said something. It did say something. You just read it wrong for 4 years. Because you find out offhand that Dana in that cracked cup holder Civic maxed out her 401k for 6 straight years, while you were financing rings for the hood of a car. 6 years of catching the full employer match, 100% instant return, free money you left on the table every year you chose the payment over the future. Dana is not rich. Let's be honest about it. Dana rents. Dana's Civic finally died last spring. Dana has her own quiet fears at 2 a.m. that a bank balance doesn't fix. It isn't a fable where the frugal one wins and the flashy one loses. It's messier than that. But Dana bought herself something you spent a decade renting from other people: the ability to not care what the woman in line thinks. Here's the part the reading never prepared you for, the thing that hits at the bottom of the descent. You thought you'd been chasing money. You weren't. You were chasing the feeling of being enough, and you'd been trying to buy it in a currency that cannot buy it. That's why the balance never held. Every performance bought a few hours of enough, and then the interest came due, in dollars, and in something else. The something else is the real bill. It's the friend you stopped calling because keeping up with him cost money you'd rather spend looking successful in front of strangers. It's the 4 years you felt vaguely superior to a woman 2 desks over who was, the entire time, quietly building the exact freedom you were faking. You can get the money back. Compounding is generous that way. You cannot get back the 4 years of looking at Dana and seeing a Civic instead of a person. So what does the slow actually feel like, on the other side? On an ordinary morning nobody is watching. It feels like coffee you drink sitting down. It feels like a checking account you open to decide, not to feel. It feels like wanting something in a store and walking out without it, and not experiencing that as loss. The word for it isn't rich. The word is unhurried. And it turns out unhurried was the luxury the whole time. The one thing the loud version of your life could never once, at any price, put in your hands. That was the first thing that changed. It wasn't the last. Because somewhere across town, a 29-year-old in a leased German car pulls into a driveway and watches a face for a reaction that never comes, and drives home and refreshes an app hoping the number changed. And you know exactly what that costs now, down to the interest, down to the penny, down to the years. Because you're not watching a stranger, you're watching yourself one Tuesday earlier, and you cannot warn him. And there's one question left. It's the only one that ever mattered. It's the one Walt never had to ask himself, and the one you asked far too late, but not, it turns out, too late to change everything after it. Who exactly were you dressing for?